Good morning. So what is this series exactly? Well, after my dozen or so times of playing through the Pirate101 story, I realized I haven't really ever read the dialogue. Sure, I know major plot points, but I was never enriched by all the dialogue and story this game has to offer. So that is what we're doing today, and for the next few months. I started a new privateer with the explicit purpose to read all the dialogue of the main story and truly learn why it is what we do. Sit back, relax, as we head into the story of Pirate101, experiencing the nuances you may have overlooked, and endure potential side rants about the relevance to today's world. If you like this format, please consider subscribing, commenting, and liking to show me you're enthralled by the Pirate101 story like I've been. Without further ado, let's sit by the fire and get started. Hello and welcome back to the I Started Privateer to read all the dialogue in Pirate101, and you might notice something a little different. I got a little arm, except it actually doesn't work. So I had to jerry rig. I have these little like spokes. I just put it in a little slot. I mean it'll work for now. I might upgrade and get one that actually works sometime, but I mean it works for now. But anyways, moving on to book 5 of Pirate101. It starts like any other good book, and that is with an adventure. We brave the Skyway and Flotsam to get to Cool Ranch, and then we speak to this little deputy guy here, Deputy Fowler, who tells us that he doesn't know nothing about Clark, but he directs us to someone who can, and that is Jane Canary in the Silver Spur Saloon. Now they're not here now because of what happens in Tumbleweed Skyway later in Cool Ranch Part 2, but they do stand here and they tell us that, well, the Clark that we're looking for, Christopher Clark, he's dead. He's been dead for a while, but he does have a son named Merriweather who lives in a nearby house down the street. So they direct us to him, and we can see what's going on. We come across this house, and I mean, you can see him here now because the quest line's over with, but we come across this note that tells us that we should direct any sort of inquiries we have to the local doctor, who is around over here, Dr. Coop right there. And he tells us that Merriweather has been off doing these sort of studies and taking archaeological notes nearby in like Junction and other places. So he tells us to go find him at Junction. Upon reaching Junction, we speak to Professor Murgatroyd. I believe that's his name. Yep, Murgatroyd, who tells us that Clark actually left and he is on his way to Big Skyway. But there was a bison burial ground that he's stopping at first. So our best bet is probably to look there. Our search for Clark ends in the bison burial ground where, as we approach this cave, we hear some screams on the inside. And then we go in and we see this nurse being held captive by some of the local bison. And they send their troops after us. They send their ancestors after us. And then they send their ancestors' pets after us, the ghosts of them. And we go through those 3 rounds of fights. We save the person who was held captive, who was Nurse Quinn. So not actually Clark, Merriweather Clark, but she tells us that she was with him, and he was taken captive by the bison. I was on my way to Elder Bluff to do the next part, and I got captured. Oh god. Well, at least we can still my build go in action. Okay, a little double super hit. That's crazy, I didn't kill all of them. Chantel will finish him off. There we go. Now we can cut the Elder Bluff down. So we arrive on Elder Bluff and we speak to some of these bison here who tell us that first, we're trespassers, so they're gonna decide our fate. And so we have this big brawl in this tent, and then so we fight, and then their chieftain decides just to fight us on his own volition and ignores the elders of the village. And after that fight, it gets resolved. Seven Storms here. He kind of calms everyone down and says that that Meriwether Clark will have to answer for his crimes of desecrating the graves. But he says that he actually didn't desecrate any graves, so we have to find proof that someone else did it, and that is with the Red Sash Gang. And before we head out to get back their charms and defeat the Red Sash Gang, we get to speak to Clark for a second, who tells us that he will help us with the map if we just get him out of there, which is, you know, music to our ears. So it gives us more incentive to go and do these quests. So we land at the Hidden Valley Ranch, which is the secret hideout of the Red Sash Gang, and we do a little beat 'em up. We take the charms back and we return to Elder Bluff to speak to the elders, and they tell us that we have one more thing to do before they can free Clark, and that is appease the spirits back on the burial ground, because those graves were desecrated by the Red Sash Gang. So we gotta resolve that issue, and that's basically a dungeon with 4 different fights, fighting the spirits and putting back the graves and the structures there. And then we return to Elder Bluff, and you can see there's a little bit of an environment change. I'm on the privateer right now, actually, Chernobyl, and once we let Clark go, one of the bison actually come with me, and we recruit them, and that's this person here, the Bison Shaman. So I just wanted to show that real quick. But we let Clark go, we go to Cooper's Roost, back to his house, and we are ambushed. We're ambushed by none other than the leader of the Red Sash Gang, Johnny Ringo's Red Sash Gang. And we sort of fight them off in Clark's house. They go away, so we get to speak with Clark, who tells us that Clark tells us that the piece of the map is hidden in a cave in Scorpion Rock. Scorpion Rock is an island, and then Scorpion Rock Cave is the cave where the map piece is in. As we head to Scorpion Rock Cave, we can actually see there's a little rock formation that makes it look like a scorpion. Kind of cool. I actually did not notice that until just now. I always wondered what that was. But we land on Scorpion Rock, and we enter the cave, which is, unsurprisingly, you can see on the island here, it is riddled with scorpions, and we have to fight through them. We go down this path to fight this queen scorpion, this big purple scorpion, and then we see that it's protecting a chest. We open the chest, but it's empty. All that's left in there is a note from one named Captain Blood, who tells Clark, not Meriwether Clark, but Christopher Clark, the original, the father. He tells him that he stole his map piece, his ship, his gold, and he will never get it back. Now, Captain Blood is interesting because Old Scratch actually recognizes this figure in this name, says he's riddled with bad mojo. So we return to Meriwether Clark to get some sort of idea on what to do. So we speak to Meriwether Clark, who tells us that he doesn't know anything about Captain Blood, but maybe the deputy does in Cooper's Roost. We speak to the deputy here, Rooster Cogburn, who tells us that maybe Wild Bill Peacock knows about Captain Blood, and Wild Bill Peacock is the husband to Jane Canary in the Silver Shirts balloon. We speak to Wild Bill, who should be right here, and he tells us that he may not know, but Argleston may know. And that name is interesting. If you played Wizard 101, the librarian actually is named Argleston, but this is a different Argleston. Maybe it's a brother or something, but there's a little Easter egg where Desmond Argleston here refers to us as a wizard. So I don't know, maybe there's something going on there that's deeper, but he tells us that there's only one man who may know where Captain Blood is, and that is El Toro. El Toro currently resides in Santo Pollo, so he gives us some papers that'll let us in, and he needs some errand done anyways, so it gives us the perfect opportunity to go into Santo Pollo. He gives us the letter, he directs us to Santo Pollo, and we're off on our way. We land in Santo Pollo, deliver the Argleston's letter, and it is now our job to find El Toro. And that's kind of where this book ends. It's honestly pretty uneventful, I would say. Not a lot happens. We do something for the bison, we do something for Meriwether Clark, and then it kind of just ends because we learn of this big figure, Captain Blood, who will become the sort of central antagonist for the next few books as we get into Cool Ranch Part 2. He doesn't appear in Port Regal because that's a whole separate issue, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this. I know this is a little bit of a different setup. I'm probably going to play with the volumes and the levels and everything, so hopefully it sounds better than it did before. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.